By letting go of what does not depend on you, the mind returns to rest. Buddhist teaching. Pause for a moment, not to think, not to decide, not to fix anything, but simply to feel how the body loosens when it stops carrying so much weight. For a long time, you have tried to do everything right, to foresee everything, to avoid mistakes, to protect yourself from what could go wrong, and without realizing it, that constant effort turned into tension. Buddhism does not teach us to stop living, but to stop forcing. When you release the need to control every detail, something inside begins to align on its own. The breath grows deeper. The mind stops racing toward the future. The heart no longer fights against the current, not because everything is resolved, but because you have stopped interfering. From that silent space, this teaching is born. When you stop worrying excessively, when you loosen your attachment to how things should be, life begins to move with a wisdom that does not need your control. These principles do not invite you to give up, but to trust, not to disconnect, but to flow with clarity. When you stop worrying, life begins to flow naturally. Buddhist wisdom. Lesson 1. Fear is a seed. If you plant it, it will grow. Before speaking about fear, let me take you to an ancient scene. Buddhist texts tell of a young disciple who approached the Buddha with a restless heart. He had left his home, but fear had not left him. He feared failing, feared not being worthy of the path, feared losing the little he still believed he possessed. The Buddha did not give him a long sermon. He took a handful of earth, let it slowly fall through his fingers, and said, "The earth does not ask which seed it receives, it simply makes it grow." And that simple image struck the disciple like a bell in the silence. For in that instant, he understood that his greatest danger was not outside, but in what he was cultivating within. In the Buddhist view, the energy you carry inside becomes the world you perceive outside. Fear is not just a passing emotion, it is a way of seeing, a lens that distorts reality. And the longer you look through it, the more convincing the illusion becomes. Fear's greatest deception is this: when you deeply fear something, you begin to live as if it were already real. Your body tightens, your breath shortens, your decisions shrink, and without realizing it, you give life to what you wish to avoid. Imagine someone who fears losing their job. That fear does not stay still. It seeps into every gesture, into hesitation before speaking, insecurity in decisions, the constant need for approval. The mind fills with noise, judgment clouds, and little by little, that person becomes withdrawn, rigid, making mistakes they would not make from calmness. And when the feared outcome arrives or seems near, they say, "I knew it." But it was not fate conspiring, it was fear working silently from within. The same happens in relationships. Fear of abandonment can lead us to cling, distrust, interpret every silence as a threat. That tension becomes heavy. The other feels it. And often the very fear meant to protect us ends up pushing away what we most feared losing. Buddhism reminds us of a deep and sometimes difficult truth. It is not always the world that wounds us. Many times it is our mind that creates the stage for suffering. The mind, the Buddha said, is like fertile soil. It does not judge what you plant. If you plant seeds of fear, anxious thoughts, agitated emotions, and confused actions will grow. If you plant seeds of calm, awareness, and compassion, those will grow too. The mind does not choose for you. You are the gardener, and you decide which seeds you water each day with your attention. This does not mean denying reality or pretending everything is fine when it is not. The Buddhist path is not escape. It is presence. It means learning to look at fear without letting it rule your life. Recognizing it when it appears and gently saying, "I see you, but I do not follow you." Because every time you feed fear with stories, assumptions, and imagined scenarios, you give it deeper roots. There is an old Zen story of a monk walking at dusk who saw what he believed was a snake on the path. Fear paralyzed him, and he spent the entire night trembling, unable to move forward, until at dawn, in the light of the sun, he discovered it was only a rope. Nothing about the object had changed, only the light with which he saw it. And this is how fear works in our mind. In the darkness of unconsciousness, it seems real, huge, threatening. In the light of mindfulness, it loses its power. When fear arises, Buddhism invites us to do something very simple and very profound. Stop, breathe, feel the body, return to the present moment, and honestly ask, is this thought cultivating peace or feeding panic? That pause is an act of freedom, because in that moment you reclaim your power as the creator of your inner landscape. You are not a helpless victim of your emotions, nor are you your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them, and from that place you can choose not to react automatically, not to plant more fear in the same exhausted soil, but to plant understanding, patience, and equanimity. When you begin to let go of fear, something gentle happens. Life does not become perfect, but it becomes more fluid. Situations that once seemed threatening turn into lessons. Relationships feel lighter. Decisions arise from a clearer place, not because you control the outer world, but because you have learned to care for your inner world. The Buddha taught that peace does not come when everything is arranged outside, but when we stop fighting inside. Observe your mind. Notice which seeds you are watering each day with your attention. Remember that fear only has the power you give it. Release it with kindness, and watch how, little by little, life begins to open, soften, and flow in ways you could not have imagined. Lesson 2. True strength is born from surrender. The sutras tell of an elderly monk who spent years trying to master his mind through extreme discipline, rising before dawn, fasting, meditating for hours, fighting every thought as if it were an enemy. Yet the more he tried to control his mind, the more restless it became, until one day, exhausted, he sat beneath a tree and simply stopped fighting. He did not seek concentration or chase calm. He just breathed and allowed everything to be as it was. And in that moment, something loosened within him. And for the first time, he knew peace, not because he had won a battle, but because he had let go of the war. We live in a world that endlessly tells us that being strong means having control, controlling time, success, others, outcomes, and that we must push harder, plan every detail, grip everything tightly so nothing slips through our hands. And without realizing it, we live tense, exhausted, hearts clenched, as if letting go meant losing. Buddhist wisdom offers a radically different and deeply liberating vision. True strength is not born from gripping tighter, but from learning to release, not surrendering from exhaustion or abandoning the path, but letting go of the illusion that we can control every moment, every person, every turn of life through sheer will. In Buddhism, surrender is not weakness, it is a sacred act. It is recognizing the limits of the self and trusting a greater intelligence, the natural flow of karma and life itself, doing what is within your hands with presence and responsibility, and then stepping back, leaving space for life to breathe. Imagine you are holding water in the palm of your hand. If you clench your fist tightly, the water slips through your fingers and is quickly lost. But if you keep your hand open and relaxed, the water remains. This is surrender. It is not passivity, not carelessness. It is openness. Strength without rigidity. Many people confuse surrender with giving up. But the Buddha never taught indifference. He taught the middle way. True surrender is a quiet trust that says, I have done what is mine to do. Now I allow life to do its part. It is acting without clinging to the outcome, planting seeds without demanding when or how the harvest will come. There is an ancient Buddhist story of a farmer who, after planting rice, went to the field every day and gently pulled on the shoots so they would grow faster, convinced he was helping. He ended up uprooting them and losing the entire crop. The Buddha used this story to show how excess control, even with good intentions, can destroy what it seeks to protect. Some things only grow when they are given time and space. When we stop constantly interfering, something beautiful begins to happen. The energy once spent on worry returns to the body. The mind, freed from obsession with results, becomes clearer, and we begin to see opportunities that anxiety once hid. We listen better, feel better, live better. Often help arrives from unexpected places, but only when we stop forcing. Life begins to work with us, not against us. Not because the world magically changes, but because our relationship with it transforms. Where there was resistance, there is now cooperation. Where there was fear, there is now trust. Buddhism reminds us that everything is impermanent, and clinging to control what is impermanent is a sure source of suffering. Surrender is accepting this truth without bitterness, bowing to reality as it is, and responding from there with wisdom. It is not resignation, it is clarity. In meditation, surrender means stopping the push against experience. If there is calm, calm is observed. If there is restlessness, restlessness is observed. No attempt is made to manufacture an ideal state. Experience is simply allowed to unfold, and paradoxically, this acceptance opens the door to a deeper peace than any forced effort. The same is true in daily life. When we stop trying to control others, relationships soften. When we release the need to always be right, the heart feels lighter. When we abandon obsession with the future, the present becomes more alive. Surrender does not take away our power. It returns us to the only place where power is real, the now. The Buddha taught that freedom is not found by accumulating, but by letting go, not by hardening, but by opening. Surrender is the beginning of that freedom, the point where the ego stops pushing and life begins to flow. When you truly surrender, you do not lose direction, you find alignment, you do not lose strength. You discover a deeper, quieter, steadier strength that does not depend on controlling the world, but on trusting it. And in that trust, silent and firm, you realize that true strength was always there, waiting for you to stop gripping so you could finally feel it. Lesson 3. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow. Peace belongs to now. Before speaking about anxiety, imagine a simple, almost invisible scene in ancient Buddhist stories. A young monk approached his teacher with a weary face and a restless mind and said, "My mind cannot rest. It is always worried about what is coming." The teacher did not answer immediately. He offered him a cup of hot tea and asked him to hold it with both hands. "Tell me," he asked gently, "is the tea spilling right now?" The monk looked at the cup. The liquid was still. "No," he replied. The teacher smiled and said, "Then in this moment, there is no problem." In that instant, the monk understood something words had not been able to teach him. The suffering that exhausted him was not in the now, but in a time that did not yet exist. Buddhist wisdom reminds us of a simple and profound truth. Anxiety cannot live in the present moment. It always dwells in the mind's projections, in questions that begin with what if? What if something goes wrong? What if I lose this? What if the future is not what I hope? None of that is happening now. It is a film the mind projects forward, a story that has not yet occurred. When you feel anxious, to look honestly at where your mind is. It is not here. It is racing into the future, building scenarios, anticipating threats, creating worlds made of assumptions. While your mind lives there, you are absent from the only place where life actually happens. This instant, this breath, this body sitting here and in this space. Even if the mind resists admitting it, you are okay. You are breathing. You are supported by the earth. You are enough. Buddhism calls this practice mindfulness, the gentle and conscious act of returning to now, not forcing the mind to be silent, but bringing it back again and again with patience. Each time you return to the present, you weaken anxiety's grip, because in this moment, there is nothing chasing you. No tomorrow to fear. Only this quiet second where life unfolds breath by breath. The mind may roar like a strong wind, but the present whispers. And the more you learn to listen to that whisper, the more you realize that peace is not something to be found outside in an ideal future. It is already within you, buried beneath the noise, waiting to be remembered. Much of the weight we carry never actually comes into being. Many of the things that steal our sleep never happen. Yet we carry them like invisible stones on our backs day after day. Buddhism offers a quiet and powerful reminder. Our greatest source of anxiety is often not reality, but imagination. The human mind is a tireless writer, endlessly creating stories, tragic endings, painful dialogues, losses that have not yet occurred, warning of disasters, failures, and rejections that exist only in thought, not in the present moment. And the more we believe these stories, the more real they feel in the body. Think of how many times you prepared for a difficult conversation that turned out calm, or feared the worst in a situation that resolved gently. The storm rarely arrives as we imagine, and many times it never arrives at all. Yet the body has already suffered as if it had. This is the deception of worry. It distorts scale, pulling distant fears so close that we begin to react to illusions as if they were truths. And Buddhism teaches that not every thought deserves to be believed. A thought may appear, but that does not mean it is real, nor that you must live inside it. There is an ancient Buddhist example that compares thoughts to clouds in the sky. Clouds appear, change shape, and dissolve. The sky does not fight them, does not try to hold them or push them away. It simply lets them pass. Anxiety arises when we become confused and believe we are the cloud, instead of the sky that observes it. The next time you find yourself trapped in a spiral of anxiety, pause for a moment, breathe, and gently ask yourself, is this happening right now? Or is it only a thought? Lesson 4. Many times you will discover that you are fighting shadows, not something real, and that understanding itself is already a relief. Freedom begins when we return to this instant, not tomorrow, not next week, but now. In the now, life is often far kinder than the mind fears. In the now, there is ground beneath your feet and air entering your lungs. In the now, you do not need to solve your entire life, only to be here. The Buddha taught that suffering is born of attachment, even attachment to our own thoughts, Letting go of anxiety does not mean ignoring responsibility, but stopping living inside the mind's predictions, responding to what is real rather than to what might be. When imagined fears are allowed to dissolve, life feels lighter. The mind clears, the heart softens, and you begin to notice that reality as it is usually far more manageable than the scenarios we invent. From that place of presence arises a quiet, stable peace that does not depend on the future being perfect. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow, to a time that does not yet exist. Peace, on the other hand, has always been here in this breath, in this moment, in this now which, if you look at it closely, is already enough. Lesson 5. Control blocks faith. It is said that a disciple once walked with his teacher along a mountain path, narrow and covered in mist. The disciple, afraid of falling, tensed his entire body, watching every step with rigidity, while the teacher walked softly, trusting the ground beneath his feet. At one point, the disciple asked, "Aren't you afraid of slipping?" And the teacher replied, "When I trust the path supports me. When I try to dominate it, I lose my balance." Words that spoke not only of the mountain, but of life itself. There is a truth that is difficult to accept yet deeply liberating. You cannot grip the steering wheel tightly and at the same time believe that the road will carry you. Buddhism reminds us that control and faith are like two travelers moving in opposite directions. The more tightly you cling to control, the farther you move from trust, and the more you trust, the more you must let go. Trying to micromanage every aspect of your life is, at its core, a silent message to the universe. I do not trust you to support me. It is a subtle yet powerful form of fear. The fear that without constant vigilance, everything will collapse. The fear that life on its own is not enough. But pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, has that control ever truly brought you peace? Often the opposite happens. The more we try to dominate outcomes, the more entangled we become in anxiety, tension, and exhaustion. Control may offer a brief illusion of safety, but it is almost always driven by a quiet panic beneath the surface. Faith, by contrast, is not passive. It is not closing your eyes or crossing your arms waiting for everything to resolve itself. Faith is powerful and serene. It whispers from deep within, "I have done what is in my hands. Now I trust the unfolding of life." It is acting with presence without being chained to the result. Moving forward without demanding that the world follow your exact script. In Buddhist teachings, this is known as letting go of attachment, not abandoning intention, but releasing the obsession with how things must turn out. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the main roots of suffering. We cling to outcomes, expectations, and images of how life should be. And when reality does not obey, pain arises. Imagine planting a seed in the earth. You choose it carefully. Prepare the soil, water it, protect it from harsh sun. But if you pull on it every day to make it grow faster, you will break it. Real growth happens beneath the surface, in roots you cannot see or control. And trusting that invisible process is an act of faith. This is how life works. Some processes need time, silence, and space. Excessive control is like digging up the soil again and again to check whether the seed has sprouted. It speeds nothing up. It only disrupts. Buddhism invites us to recognize that a greater intelligence is at work, a wisdom we cannot always grasp from the limited mind of the ego. When we try to force the future, we disconnect from that intelligence. And when we let go, we begin to hear it. Ask yourself gently, are you holding things so tightly that you have forgotten how to breathe? Are you pushing the future with such desperation that you have stopped believing in the natural rhythm of life? Often, the body already knows the answer: rigidity, constant fatigue. A restless mind are signs of control that has become too heavy. Letting go is not surrendering from exhaustion, nor abandoning your dreams or responsibilities. Letting go is showing up fully and then allowing life to meet you in its own way. It is doing your part with honesty and then stepping back, trusting that not everything depends on you. In meditation, this becomes clear. When you try to force the mind into calm, it grows more restless. When you stop pushing and simply observe, the mind settles on its own. Calm does not arise through force, but through acceptance. The same is true in daily life. When we stop controlling people, relationships soften. When we release the need for absolute certainty, the mind rests. When we stop demanding that life meet our deadlines, we begin to sense its quiet wisdom. Faith does not eliminate action, it purifies it. You act from clarity, not fear. You make decisions without being chained to outcomes. You trust timings you cannot control and endings you do not yet understand. And paradoxically, from that place, everything flows with greater harmony. The Buddha never promised a life without difficulties. He promised a path to stop suffering unnecessarily. And part of that path is recognizing when control has become a burden. Part of that path is learning to let go with dignity and trust. When you release control, you do not lose power, you regain energy, presence, and faith. And you begin to feel that life is not an enemy you must constantly watch, but a living process capable of supporting you. This is where true faith begins. Not as an idea, but as a felt experience in the body and the heart. And with it comes a quiet, deep peace that does not depend on everything going according to plan, but on knowing that even when you do not understand the path, you are not alone on it. Lesson 6. Letting go is the beginning of your growth. It is said that a monk walked the same forest path every day, carrying a heavy backpack. No one knew what was inside, but his steps were slow and his back was bent. One day, his teacher asked why he did not leave the backpack at the monastery, and the monk replied, "I don't know what's inside, but I'm afraid I might need it." The teacher smiled compassionately and said, "As long as you don't look inside, you will always walk bent over." When the monk opened the backpack, he discovered it was full of stones he had collected out of fear of having nothing. And in that moment he understood that it was not the path that exhausted him, but what he refused to let go of. Worry has a silent way of shrinking your world. It does not arrive suddenly or shout. It begins with cautious thoughts, excessive planning, constant vigilance over what could go wrong, telling yourself you are just being careful, until that caution slowly becomes an invisible cage and, without realizing it, you begin to reduce your life. You shrink your dreams because they feel too uncertain. You shrink your voice because you fear judgment. You shrink your heart because loving without guarantees feels dangerous, making yourself smaller to feel safe. But Buddhism reminds us of an essential truth. Worry does not protect you. It restricts you. It does not care for you. It limits you. The Buddha taught that suffering is born from attachment and the fear of loss. And when we live trapped in worry, our energy scatters in 1,000 directions, keeping us in constant alert as if danger were always about to appear. And in that state, we stop living fully. Letting go does not mean ignoring reality or acting without responsibility. It means redirecting attention to what truly belongs to you, your thoughts, your choices, the way you respond, your capacity to love and to be kind. Everything else was never under your control. No matter how much the mind insists otherwise, Imagine yourself in a river, the water flowing strong, fresh, alive. If you try to grasp it with closed hands, it slips through your fingers, and the tighter you squeeze, the less you hold. But if you relax and float, the river supports and carries you. This is the essence of letting go, not surrendering to the current out of weakness, but trusting that you do not need to struggle to be held. Buddhism calls this non-attachment, not clinging to fears, expectations, or the stories the mind endlessly repeats. When you release the grip of fear, something begins to open within you. Space appears, and in that space, courage, creativity, and joy are born. Letting go is expansive and courageous because it invites you back to the present, the only place where life truly happens, not in what-ifs, not in imagined scenarios, but here, in this moment, breathing with you. Ask yourself honestly how much energy you spend each day worrying about things you cannot control. How many hours of your life dissolve into thoughts that change nothing? And then ask something deeper. What would happen if you devoted that same energy to creating, connecting, and trusting? The Buddha compared the restless mind to a monkey jumping endlessly from branch to branch. And worry keeps that monkey constantly in motion. Letting go is sitting beneath the tree and observing, not needing to catch the monkey, only to stop chasing it. And in time, it tires and becomes still on its own. When you stop trying to force life to fit your plans, something beautiful happens. You begin to dance with its rhythm, discovering that you are not alone pushing the world, but that the world can also support you. And a sense of quiet support appears, as if a greater wisdom were walking with you. That wisdom is the same one that grows seeds beneath the earth in silence, that guides the seasons without asking permission, that sustains your breath even while you sleep. Trusting it is not naive. It is remembering that you do not need to carry everything on your shoulders. Letting go is not weakness. It is courage. The strength to stop shrinking, to fit into fear. The bravery to live with an open heart, even knowing that not everything is safe. The Buddha did not teach us to close the heart to avoid pain, but to open it with wisdom so we would not live imprisoned by fear. Each time you release a worried thought, you reclaim a bit of freedom. Each time you choose the present over fear of the future, you take a step toward a wider life. You do not need all the answers. You do not need to hold everything. Life does not ask that of you. Breathe. Feel how the weight lightens, even slightly. Notice how the body responds when you stop gripping. Letting go is not a single act, but a daily, gentle, patient practice. And with each small release, you grow. Remember this: you are not here to live shrunken. You are here to expand, to experience, to be alive. Freedom does not arrive when everything is under control. It arrives the moment you choose to release what was never yours to carry. And that is where true growth begins. Lesson 7. Life begins to flow when you step aside. Before speaking of flow, listen to an ancient Zen teaching. It is said that a master once watched a disciple trying to straighten the course of a mountain stream, using stones and branches to force the water into a straight line. And the more he intervened, the more turbulent the flow became. Silently, the master removed a single large stone blocking the way, and the water effortlessly found its path. Then he said, "The water knows where to go. The problem was never the river, but your need to direct it." That simple scene holds one of the deepest truths of Buddhism. Life works better when we stop trying to control every detail. The more we interfere, the more resistance we create, the tighter we grip, the more chaos we invite. But when we learn to step back, not from negligence, but from trust, something extraordinary begins to happen. Life starts to move on its own, with a rhythm far wiser than our plans. This idea can feel unsettling, because from an early age, we were taught that control equals safety, that without constant effort, correction, and vigilance, everything will fall apart. So we intervene, overthink conversations, anticipate problems that do not yet exist, chase outcomes that are not ready to arrive, inserting ourselves into every detail, convinced that if we do not take charge, everything will collapse. Yet this constant interference does not create calm, it creates tension. It drains our energy, clouds our clarity, and leaves us exhausted, trying to manage things that were never fully in our hands. Buddhism shows us another path, gentler and wiser, teaching that when we release the urge to interfere, we allow life to unfold at its own natural pace. Just as a river flows around rocks and curves without losing its destination, your life can also move forward when you stop blocking it with fear and control. Remember the times you tried to force something, a job, a relationship, a decision, and how often it broke in your hands. Now remember the moments when you breathed, loosened your grip, and allowed things to flow, and how often they resolved more harmoniously than you imagined. Worry, over-control, and excessive thinking are like stones thrown into a calm stream. They cloud the water and break its clarity, but when you remove the need to control, the current flows again. And life works the same way. Trying to control everything does not make life safer, it makes it heavier, turning possibilities into pressure. And often, by trying so hard to impose your way, you unknowingly block better outcomes that would have arrived if you had simply let go a little. So, the essential question arises: how do you begin to let go? Buddhism does not ask for a dramatic act, it invites you to observe, to notice when you are clinging too tightly, when you check your phone again and again, waiting for a reply, when you replay the same decision endlessly in your mind, when you try to rush a person or a situation that is not yet ready to move. In those moments, pause, breathe, and gently ask yourself, what would happen if I loosened my grip just a little? What if I did what is in my hands and allowed the rest to unfold on its own? Letting go does not mean stopping caring. It means learning to act where it truly matters and releasing what no longer does. The Buddha often used the image of a seed. You plant it, water it, and care for it, but you do not dig it up every day to see if it has grown growth. In life, as in nature, has its own timing, and when it is forced, it weakens. Imagine holding a butterfly in your hand. If you close your fingers out of fear of losing it, you will harm it. But if you keep your palm open, it may stay a little longer or even return after flying away. This is how your goals, your relationships, and your inner peace work. They need space to breathe. The tighter you grip, the more they slip away. But when you let go with trust and openness, everything begins to grow naturally. And in that space, something quiet and powerful appears. The feeling that life is starting to support you. The right people begin to show up. The right timing reveals itself, and answers arrive without being forced. You no longer feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your energy becomes lighter. Your breath deepens. Your heart softens. And you realize that what you feared would not happen without your control was never something you were meant to force. At the root of our need to control lives, fear of failing, losing, not being enough. But here is the deeper truth. Life does not ask for perfection. It asks for trust. A calm and steady trust in your path as it unfolds. You do not need to control every moment. Sometimes, your only role is to show up honestly, do your part, and allow the story to continue on its own. Buddhism gently reminds us that we are not here to conquer life, but to live in harmony with it. Life is not a machine to dominate. It is a flow to learn to move with. You cannot calm the ocean, but you can learn to ride its waves. You cannot command the tide, but you can align yourself with its rhythm. When you cling too tightly, you create tension. When you let go, you create space, and what you stop trying to control often begins to grow by itself. You do not need all the answers. You only need to take one sincere step. Breathe deeply and release the idea that your grip is what holds everything together. Let today be the beginning of a gentler way of living. Release one worry, trust one uncertainty, and observe what begins to open within you. Because when you stop forcing, you begin to receive. When you stop interfering, life starts to flow not against you, but alongside you, with gentleness, wisdom, and purpose. Life is not a battle to win, it is a rhythm to inhabit. And the more you try to control everything, the more you miss the quiet beauty born of trust. Buddhism does not ask you to stop caring or abandon responsibility. It invites you to care with clarity, act with presence, and let go with peace, reminding you to release burdens that were never truly yours. Breathe deeply, loosen your grip, trust the timing of your path, because your true strength is not born from control, but from alignment. And when you step aside, life finally begins to move with you.